Please welcome the incredible Liz Moody.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. I know you're on the move, bebopping around.
Yeah, I am bebopping around. I appreciate you having me, even if I'm not in my beautiful studio.
It looks great.
Thank
No one's
you.
going to look at the thing on the background, the artwork on the. No one's going to pay attention to that.
Well, it really is just like, I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, you see the perfectly polished studios online and you're like, oh, I want that. I need that to actually get the work done. But you don't. You just need your computer. I have a little $70 microphone here and we're making it work.
That's it. And it's not like my YouTube channel is number one in the world. So, and then even if it was, people would probably be asking where they bought that piece of art behind you.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that we make a million sort of like excuses for I need to have this thing, I need to do this training, I need to read this book, and all we're doing is putting space between the time we actually start going after the thing that is our dream, and we are also not giving ourselves the time to like learn on the go. So I'm a big fan of like, what are the things that we actually genuinely need, and what are the things that we're just telling ourselves that we need so that we can put our dreams off a little bit more.
Oh my gosh, it's the best excuse,
yes,
right?
The best excuse.
Like starting this podcast, I did not have a team in place, but I remember talking about wanting to podcast. And I talked about it so much. My husband was finally like, what day are you launching? I was like, oh my gosh, we have accountability now. And that means that I have to shut up about it. So I put some arbitrary date on the calendar. And now it's been over 5 years.
Yeah,
And
I think about this all the time because we don't do our dreams in life because our dreams in life don't have deadlines. And so many other parts of our lives have deadlines. So like that work project has a deadline, that thing that you promise that your boss, your coworker, you do, those all have deadlines. And so we're going to get those things done. And what we need to do to get the things that we dream about, that we want to do, that light us up done, is put deadlines on them so they get the same importance. I'm also such a big fan of putting habits and friend time and these things that actually make life meaningful and our bodies and our minds feel good. Put those on the calendar, because otherwise all the stuff that's going to be on the calendar is like, I need to do this errand, I need to finish this report, and you're never going to have the time to actually accomplish the things that you want to accomplish to be the person that you want to be.
oh, yeah, you first. I actually did this morning because my friends are in town. Well, one, we have a common friend, Jackie Service, and she's like, what are you doing tomorrow morning? I was like, well, we got to bring the kids to school and then I'm going to work out probably at home. And then she's like, I'll come to your house and we'll work out together. And I'm like, I've got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it ended up being so much fun. She brought another one of our girlfriends who's in town and we pushed each other.
I'm such a fan of like, so many of us when we're getting together with friends, we're like, oh, I'll just go to a restaurant or I'll go to a bar. Incorporate your friends into the activities that you are already doing. And working out, wonderful. Friends are a really great way to keep you on track with the habits that you want to have. But also take your friends with you to the DMV, take them grocery shopping, do a meal prep session with them. I think so often we get together with our friends to catch up on our lives, and what makes deep, meaningful relationships is living our lives together. So it might sound a little silly, a little boring, but it's actually giving your friendships this opportunity to get so much deeper.
It's so true. My rule now is walk and talk meetings. Like if you want a meeting with me or hang out, it's like grab a coffee and we're walking, we're moving.
Yeah.
Because like the sitting, I'm just like, and you're staring at each other's eyes and you're like, this is weird. And there's like, what's the next question I'm going to ask you? But you don't have to look each other in the eyes if you're going for a walk.
There's research that shows that especially men open up more when you're side by side versus when you're staring at each other. So if you want to have a hard conversation with anybody, but especially a man, do it side. Like in the car, have you noticed that you have often much more open conversations with your partner in a car?
Yeah, well, you're also stuck in the car. So you can't escape.
You can't get out.
Here's
the secret to having a hard conversation. Put them in an environment they can't get out of.
That's actually a really good one. Go for a drive.
But actually, like it people get more vulnerable and they get more open when you're side by side. So if you can walk side by side, also when we're walking, the flow of things past our visual field inspires creativity. So that's going to make our brain make new neural connections that we wouldn't otherwise, which will make us like more fun conversationalists.
Oh, this is so fascinating. Keep talking. I love this. What more do you know about this? Give me the research.
I got a fun fact for everything.
You do. Okay, so there's this. I know you published an episode about happiness hacks.
Yes.
Are these some of these in there? Like, what are they? What are the happiness hacks?
These ones are not in there. So one of the ones that I've gotten the most audience feedback on since I shared this episode. So this idea was like, I have tried everything. I have huge mental health struggles in my background, which we can get into if you'd like. But I have been one of those people who has tried every single thing that people have told you to do for happiness over the years. And I'm like, okay, which ones actually work? Like, which ones are actually making a difference here? And a lot of the ones that work are really different and not the things that I feel like we're normally telling people. So one of the ones I've gotten the most audience feedback on that I think is really simple to do is when you walk into a room, you just say to yourself, what's good here? What's good here? It's a really simple question. It's 3 words. What's good here? And what you're doing is you are priming your brain to notice the things that are already inherently good in your environment. So you can do this when you are scanning a room. So I walked into this room and I'm like, okay, what's good here? Oh, the lighting's actually really pretty. The ceilings are actually quite high, which makes me feel a little bit expansive, a little bit spacious. I can see a tree out my window. That green of the tree is making me feel really happy. You can do it with like that type of thing. You can do it when you sit down to a meal. What's good here? Oh, this meal is really nourishing and warm. It kind of reminds me of my childhood, which makes me feel a little bit of happiness on the inside. I love that I'm getting to take the time to sit here and have this meal and take a little moment out of my day. That's what's good here. There's going to be something that's good in every single situation that you're in, and priming your brain. Your brain has this natural negativity bias, which is just to protect you. Your brain's trying to do you a favor there, but it's scanning, looking for threats, looking for what's bad here. By switching the question consciously and saying, what's good here? You're having these neurons in your brain fire together. You're having these positive connections form, and that's going to fuse them together. So in the future, your brain is more likely to think positive thoughts. So you're not only going to enjoy the experience that you're in that particular moment that you're asking what's good here more, but you're going to be more likely to notice the good in your life in the future because you have fused those neural connections together.
Okay, that is amazing. I always look at things and like, oh my God, that plant needs to be watered.
What's good here? You have a plant.
Yeah,
so
I have
fun.
a plant. And it's alive.
And it's alive. You've kept a plant alive. That's amazing. What's good here? It's just we have to do conscious things to overcome the threat mechanisms that are going off in our brain.
Ooh, okay. And it's so simple. I use the 5-minute journal most mornings, and it's like, what are the things that you like love the most about your life right now? And I'm always like, a warm, dry house and hot coffee. And it's amazing how it's like I just crushed a 300 person event. Like NPS score was the best in the world. Like, but I still look at these simple things in life being the things that light me up the most.
Well, and also even with the 300 person event, I think with entrepreneurial people, we're always scanning that type of event and being like, what could I be improving here? And that's great. Like 100%. We want to learn and grow and get better. But I would encourage you for that 300 person event to look around and be like, what's good here? What have I already hit here that's worth applauding?
Okay. I will do that. I have a similar rule in life that my motto is to make every room a better place because I was there. And even if that just means smiling at the person who's in the room or putting some garbage away, like a little something, like it's like a 1% improvement.
I love that. Where did that come from? Have you done that forever?
It's the simplest thing. It's the simplest thing to do. Like so we're in the Innovation Center in Kelowna, BC, where we live. And it's a communal bathroom, the women's bathroom. There's somebody on this floor who always makes a mess. It's a woman. And every time I go in there, I wipe the sink down and I take like the little bits of paper towel off the floor and I throw it out. And it takes me 2 seconds. That's it. So for the next person that comes in that room, it's clean.
And also they'll be able to be like, what's good here? Wow, look at this nice clean sink.
And I'll just stand there with like a towel over my arm and those like mint bowls and asking for money.
That's like me whenever I'm a very not clean person. This is like my Achilles heel. And whenever I do clean, I'm like waiting for my husband to walk in the door so I can close up the dishwasher and be like, oh, I guess you just caught me loading up the dishwasher. Like if you clean in the forest and nobody sees, then I did not clean type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my Jackie came over to work out this morning and she'd already been to my house. My friend Kiki hadn't. So I didn't, and Kiki was a last minute addition. So the house was not tidy because Jackie already saw it. So like she already got like the good version of this house. And then she's like, Kiki's coming over. And I was like, crap, 10 minutes, like just shoving things into things. And I'm like, look at the house right now because next time it ain't gonna look like this.
Isn't that funny though that I have never once walked into somebody else's house and thought, oh my gosh, this house is so messy. You're disgusting. I don't want to be your friend. Do you?
I do not pass judgment at all. But here's the thing. You know how I fall asleep at night when I just can't sleep? I visualize how to optimize spaces. And I'm not an architect. And I do believe that things in our environment talk to us. So clutter talks to us. And it's often a reflection of people's priorities, if their house is clean or not. But everything from this is so random, the best layout for a daycare. I should sell these blueprints to somebody.
Interesting.
So I don't judge, but I notice things.
And I would say, to your point, that's much more about you. Like this is a personality trait of yours and something that you like to focus on. I think that we think that people will perceive us a certain way and we need to showcase ourselves as perfect, and we're running around cleaning up and trying to make the perfect meal when we entertain. And actually the things that our friends remember at the end of the night is how hard they laughed and how the conversation was and if they felt connected. And honestly, if the host felt stressed, if the host feels stressed, the whole night is worse. So I would encourage people, anything you can do to eliminate stress, even if it's having a little bit of a messier house and ordering some pizza instead of making a fancy meal, is going to make the night higher quality, in my humble opinion.
Oh, 100%. I don't cook because I don't like cooking, and I don't think I'll ever love it. I appreciate a good meal. Okay, what's another happiness hack?
Okay, another happiness hack, honestly, is working out. To the point of what you did with your friends this morning. Working out, if working out were a pill, it would be the most studied, most prescribed pill for our mental health. It has such powerful effects. There's so many different ways. I think everybody knows working out is good for them, but people don't work out. So I think it's, when we talk about working out, it's more talking about why haven't I been able to integrate this habit that everybody says is so good for me into my routine? And I think there's a few different reasons for that. One is we set the bar way too high. We're trying to drive to the gym 20 minutes away, do an hour workout. We're like, is this the most effective thing that I possibly could be doing? And any movement is going to be so good for your brain health. It's going to be good for your heart health. It's going to be good for your longevity. So even just taking walks, doing 5 squats after you end a call, I would say lower the bar significantly. And then when you can stick to that habit, then you can raise the bar and raise the bar. And then 2, I think too many people are forcing themselves to do workouts that don't feel fun. For a habit to stick, it needs to be rewarding, and that reward can come intrinsically or extrinsically. So if you like the workout you're doing, that's an intrinsic reward. I've gotten into weight training recently, and it feels like a jungle gym to me. I feel like I'm a little bit of a kid and I'm playing around on all the machines, and I actually enjoy that type of workout. And so if you intrinsically like something, you want to take that second to really notice and appreciate it, again, to wire those neurons together so your brain gets, okay, this is intrinsically rewarding. I want more of this. But I also added an extrinsic reward because otherwise I need as much as possible to get me to go to the gym. And so I save my very favorite podcast for the time that I'm working out. That's called temptation bundling. You can do it with any habit that you want to have that doesn't feel intrinsically rewarding enough. You save a thing that you love. And this is important. You have to save it. You can't watch your favorite TV show sometimes in normal life and then also watch it while you're doing your laundry or something. You have to save your favorite TV show for when you are folding your laundry. So you temptation bundle the thing that you love already with the habit that you want to form. So I do that with saving my favorite podcast for working out, and it works wonders because I want to listen, and I only get to listen if I'm doing my workout.
Okay. Can I ask you what podcast that is?
I listen. So I need to listen to a bunch of different ones because nobody is doing a daily podcast. Here, let me check. I have a bunch up on my phone right
Oh
now.
yeah, that would make sense, right? Daily podcast.
Yeah, because I'm working out every single day. I listen to really weird podcasts. I've been loving Founders recently. Have you listened to
Yeah.
that?
Yep. Yep.
I love Fresh Air. I listen to We Can Do Hard Things. Becoming You with Susie Welch. I've really been liking that
Mm.
recently. Simon Sinek's podcast is super great.
And what makes you choose these podcasts in particular?
I like podcasts that I think I'm a little bit different because I host a podcast and that's my full time job. So I'm looking for people who are going to inspire me. I love great interviewers. So, like, I love listening to Terry Gross or Howard Stern simply because I think they're masters of their craft. And I really like to listen to the questions that they ask and see if they'd be different follow ups than I would ask. And I'm always trying to become a better interviewer. So even if I'm less interested in the subject matter, I'm listening to them trying to learn how to interview. I'm trying to keep up on the conversations happening in the world at large so that we can reflect those in the podcast. And then I'm also trying to move in and out of other people in my space to see what other people are doing so that we can keep our unique voice, but still like really be aware of what else is happening.
That is so key because we get caught up and then we think that the world in this industry is only made up of these 4 or 5 people because that's the only world we know.
I actually find that listening to podcasts that are like in a different space than mine is the most inspiring thing. Like John Green had a podcast called The Anthropocene Reviewed, and I loved it. And the way that he told stories in it informed the way that I thought about storytelling, but it was absolutely not in my genre or category in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, this has inspired me
Yeah,
because
I
I'll go
would
back
say
to
anybody who's looking to do creative work, I find the thing that informs creative work the most, but lets you keep your unique creative voice is doing things that are in different creative categories. So if you're trying to write a book, maybe go to a museum and look at a bunch of different paintings or listen to a bunch of different music. And obviously you want to like read books and be well versed in books, but I think that going laterally and looking at different types of creative inspiration can be incredibly helpful and is an underutilized tool for creativity because it gets those brain juices working, but it gives you space to find your unique voice.
Okay, so where do you find the inspiration? Where's like your place of like, whoa?
I mean, so for me, for the pod, do you mean for the podcast or for books or?
For all your creative work. So I guess it would be different maybe for okay, let's do the podcast for the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast it comes from a number of different places. One, we have a research scientist on our team and she's always going through like the new research, and a big thing we're trying to do on the podcast is we're taking the latest science and then we're saying, okay, how can this actually like fit into our lives and help us reach the goals that we want to have? And so we're sitting down in edit meetings every week and we're talking through, okay, what's all the science coming out and is this applicable? Is this going to make people feel like they're having to add more pressure on to their already filled days? How can we make this actionable, resonant, and doable? And then I'm also really paying attention to the conversations that my friends and I are having, and the conversations that are sort of permeating pop culture. So something that we have a number of episodes coming out about, for instance, is what's happening with men these days. There was just the Lost Boys report out of England that showcased this gap in the success that men are having in their lives. And for me, in terms of cultural conversations, I have so many girlfriends saying like, I can't meet men who feel like they are in life where I am. I'm not asking for the world, but I'm asking for somebody who is ambitious, has a decent job, has a decently high EQ, and is kind and has like decent, healthy habits. And they feel like they are all of those things. And then they go out into the world and they can't find men who are kind of at a similar level. And there's a lot of research that shows that men are falling behind in many major cities. Men are making significantly less money than women, which is the first time in history it's happened. They've not been raised to have as high of an EQ as women. So they're not kind of filling in these other gaps. And so that conversation about what's happening with the men these days, it came out of research, but it also came out of these conversations that I'm having with my girlfriends over and over.
So you take that research and provide your perspective.
I'll provide my perspective or I'll have an expert on. So for this, for instance, have you seen the movie The Materialists?
No. Should
Okay,
I?
it just came out. It's really
Okay.
interesting. And it sparked this it has a lot of those notes of like there's basically a character in it who's trying to choose whether to marry for love or marry for money. And it's, do you want the love you want or do you want the life that you want? And so I had on my friend Logan Ury, who's a world-class dating expert. She's written a ton of books. She's the director of behavioral science at Hinge. She came on and we chatted about the movie and also what's happening with men in general in this dating conversation and all of that. So we use the movie as a container to talk about the research and also what we're seeing in the real world. And also, and this is important for me for my podcast, actionable solutions. I think that people come to our podcast because they're like, okay, I'm seeing these problems, I'm feeling these problems, but like, what do I do today in my life to feel better?
So I'm just like loving this creative inspiration, because I've been just in my own loop about how we come up with content. So we've also like, we have so much data now after 5 years to know what works, what doesn't. But also you get stuck in the system because you try to automate so much that it actually leaves out like the real original creativity in like walking in the woods or going for a shower or going for a run and those like downloads.
Yeah. And I do think going for a shower, going for a run, walking in the woods, those are all examples of times where our brain doesn't have any inputs. You're giving your brain the space to kind of stretch out. And that's when those new sparks fly. And I think that any entrepreneur, anybody trying to do any creative work, it's so important to have time to do nothing. Your brain needs that time to do nothing to generate fresh ideas. And so many of us are just bombarding our brain with inputs from the second that we wake up. We wake up, we check our phone, we're reading the news, we're reading texts, we're watching YouTube videos, we're listening to audiobooks, we're listening to podcasts, and we are not actually giving our brain time to literally do nothing from the moment that we open our eyes to the moment that we go to sleep.
Okay, well, this is a perfect segue into this recent episode of yours that you talked about how you lowered your screen time.
Yes. I definitely identify as a phone addict.
Same.
I think many of us do. And I do think that's part of it too, is realizing that our phones are designed to be addictive. Every single thing about them is designed to keep us on those social media apps. The algorithms are designed to incite very strong emotions, which are going to make us stick around. And those emotions, the easiest emotions to incite are not positive emotions. They are fear and anger. And so we're sitting in this toxic soup all day long on our phones. And I think acknowledging that is a really good first step. The first thing that I recommend that people do is just the math on their screen time. So you can go and you can look up, we have an equation for this in the episode, and I also shared it on my social media, but you can look up your screen time and then you can see how many of your waking hours every single year you are spending on your phone. And then you can see, if you are interested, how many waking hours of your life. For me, I believe I was spending like 7 or 8 years of the rest of my waking life on my phone if I kept up my same screen time. 7 or 8 years, almost a decade on my phone if I kept up my same screen time. And that was such a stark wake up call. I pictured my 90-year-old self at the end of her life, and all she wants to do is like get a little bit more time to hang out with the people that she loves and to experience the world. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting a decade of my precious time on this planet, my precious finite time scrolling on your phone. So I think genuinely doing the math with that equation is such a powerful wake up call. And I encourage everybody to do that.
It's like the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Mm-hmm.
You should just like maybe add the 6th regret, the modern version of this book.
Spending too much time on our phone. Yeah, honestly, because it's getting in the way of probably the other 5 things.
Yeah, 100%. When I drive anywhere that's within 15, 20 minutes, if I'm alone, I don't have anything on. I will talk to myself. It looks like I'm talking to somebody on the phone, but what great self-therapy.
Wait, really? You just like sit in the car, and how does that go? Do you have questions that kick it off?
Drive? Nope. I just talk through scenarios. Like I'm having an issue with a friend, I'll talk through my perspective. An issue with a kid, I just talk through it. You think about it. Whenever you're frustrated with something, you pick up the phone, you call a bestie, and you vent.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the best therapy, they just listen, but they don't do anything.
Yeah.
So why not just talk to yourself? Because you actually get the equivalent amount of therapy in just like letting it out.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, this is one of the reasons journaling is so effective is because a big part of the benefits of therapy, not all of them, but a big part of the benefits of therapy is just the act of disclosure. And so you are essentially participating in the act of disclosure by yourself. That's fun. I've never heard of anybody who's done that.
Well, I mean, I probably look like a moron, but it's fine.
I mean,
And
honestly, these days people just think that you're on the phone on your car.
well, and that's it. And it's not always the case, but I try not to listen to too many podcasts or audiobooks. Like you have this the default mechanism of like turning something on because you have this gap in time, which is in your vehicle commuting, that you have to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And it just also adds to that addiction.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've created a world where we need to be entertained at every single moment. And that's because our dopamine is unbalanced. Our dopamine is unbalanced because of our phones largely, but also that we've created it's a self-fulfilling cycle. When we are entertaining ourselves every single moment of our day, we are imbalancing our dopamine, and then we are needing more dopamine stimulation to be entertained every single moment of every day. So we're trapped in this vicious cycle, and the
So
way you need to break it is to have moments where you do nothing, where you break free from that entertainment. But because our dopamine is so imbalanced, it's gonna feel really uncomfy at first. Like you're gonna feel a little antsy. You're gonna feel just like, oh my God, I want to reach for my phone. I want to put something on. I don't want to sit here alone with my own thoughts. And I think we need to be a lot more vocal and open about that, because when people can expect that and know that's something that's just going to exist for a little bit, and then when your dopamine comes into more of a state of balance, it will ease away. I think that's helpful for withstanding those first few moments and not just being like, oh my God, what's going on here? This is so uncomfy.
it's like that withdrawal of like caffeine or sugar. You have the
Yeah.
headache.
Yeah. And I think on the other side of discomfort is where most of the good things in our lives live, but we've gotten really uncomfortable with discomfort.
Oh my gosh, it's such a like what's the word I'm looking for? Because I think of what I'm trying to do in terms of growing my social media presence, because it helps with everything from promoting your podcast to events. But then there's this like inherent need to come up with the next creative idea and like publish the reel and be on stories. So that's like it's almost like it freezes you, because like for me, my default is I don't want to be on my phone.
Yeah.
I actually would just rather read a book and be with my kids and like maybe take pictures.
Yeah.
But then there's this need to create content and post stuff all the time.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I think a lot of my friends who do content creation struggle with that too. I think it's a tricky part of both this industry and most industries these days, is because there's very few industries that are free of social media, and I think finding what works for you can be really hard.
Yeah. So turn your phone off. I plug my phone in across my bedroom, so way on the other side. So if anything comes up, people still can reach me, like my family, but it's just not having it next to bed, and just setting our own intentions about screen time. But I'm gonna send that episode to my
I would
husband.
push back on that like a little bit, because I would say intentions aren't enough. I think that we think that our willpower can overcome the pull of our phone. It cannot. So I think that ideas and intentions are a great place to start, but you really need to marry them with concrete science-backed action, or it's not going to be enough, because again, our phones are so designed to be addictive that we really need to match that with strong actions on our own part. Otherwise, we have no chance.
Okay, so what's a strong action that you've taken?
So a strong action for me is doing the math. So that was one of them, but also something like turning my phone completely off. For me, if I have my phone on airplane mode, I'm so likely to toggle that airplane mode off and just like check. It's not enough of a barrier to entry. We want to make the habits that we want to have as easy as possible, and we want to make the habits that we don't want to have as hard as possible. So you want to create as much friction for the habits that you don't want to have as possible. Putting my phone on airplane mode, not enough friction. I think a lot of us put our phones like face down on the table next to us while we're trying to do our work. And then we are asking ourselves, well, why am I picking up my phone and like scrolling on Instagram so often when I'm trying to get this work done? It's like, well, because your phone being face down on the table next to you is not enough friction to keep you from doing that habit. You need to have your phone maybe in the other room, maybe in a drawer. Maybe you need to use an app like Brick, which doesn't let you be on your phone within certain hours. For me, turning my phone completely off is really helpful, because then when I go to grab it, I'm like, oh, okay, do I want to turn it fully back on again just to scroll through
it's so hard to turn it
Instagram
on.
for a second, you know?
Yeah.
So I have my phone fully off for much of my work day, and that's kind of the only way that I get things done. And it would not be enough for me to be like, well, I have willpower. I'll just put it next to me face down. Like that's not enough. I'm just going to reach for it every 10 minutes.
Yeah, same. Okay. Well, I was going to say something else to this too. Oh, yes. And a really good suggestion is if you're out for dinner or coffee with friends, do not put your phone on the table.
Yes.
It's like the rudest thing.
Well, and there's also research that shows, I call it face down phone theory. If your phone is out on the table, even face down, there's a little bit of something called attention residue on that phone. It takes 23 minutes for our attention to fully transfer from one thing to the next. So if your phone is out on the table, every time you glance on it, you have a little bit of that attention, that stickiness of your attention on your phone, which means, and they've done quite a bit of research on this, you have less focus and attention on your conversation, and you're going to rate that conversation as less satisfying and fulfilling post facto just by having your phone out face down on the table. And if your phone is out, if your phone is in your eye line, you're always using a little bit of your willpower to not pick up your phone. So you're distracting yourselves from this quality conversation that you're trying to have with the people you're trying to connect with. So you really want to get your phone out of your eye line when you're out. Otherwise, it's still having that distracting propensity.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. So how would you tell the people that you're having coffee or dinner with to put their phone away?
So I have found that it's not very helpful to nag your friends or your family members to put their phone away.
No, I don't like that answer.
They don't respond very well to that. The thing that I found that works the best is creating scenarios where you can't really have your phone. So like doing a workout class with a friend, so you're not allowed to bring the phone into the workout classroom. I love hikes because often you're just out of service range. Your phone is away in a backpack. If you have your phone out in a hike, it's kind of like a weird, like why would you have your phone out while you're walking and hiking and trying to not trip over roots? So I think creating scenarios where you're less likely to be on your phone is far more effective, designing the environment versus nagging, which doesn't really help.
Okay. I'm
sorry.
Maybe that's all right. No, I'm just thinking of I think most of my friends are actually getting better at it.
I think there's an increased awareness and increased desire. And I think there's an increased awareness of what is this taking from us. I think that many people are realizing, like me, I don't want to lose a decade of my life to watching other people live their lives. I want to live my own life. I want to connect with other people. I want to build these relationships. And you cannot build your relationship when you have this device in the way.
You're making me think I should buy a digital camera.
It's I've been eyeing one, the Canon one that everybody has that makes the cutest kind of old fashioned photos. Or I was at my friend's baby shower recently, and they had the disposable cameras out, and the photos for it are so cute and vintage and fun feeling.
I know. I'm just thinking because the cameras today on our phones are incredible. We don't even need anything fancy, but weird. It would be weird traveling with two, but also it's like that I'm thinking about that residue now because I want to take a picture, but then I'm like, oh, great. I just see a notification. And now my head's kind of like, oh, what are they saying?
Get a digital camera. That's what all the cute Instagram girlies are doing.
Well, then let's just do it.
Let's do it. Let's be cute Instagram girlies.
I tried. It doesn't work for me. People don't subscribe to that. They're like, Renee, we love you because you try and you're not the best and you're relatable that way.
I think about Taylor Swift with that because she has the line. She has a few different lines, but she's like, all I do is try, girl. And she really is not effortless cool girl. I put in effort and I want to make people love me and I want to produce great things. And I really relate to that because I feel like I'm not effortless cool girl. And I feel like Taylor's made it okay to embrace not being effortless cool girl.
There we go. I have moments. There are moments. I will say my hair yesterday was effortless and I was so damn proud of it.
Your hair looks really cute right now.
Well, thank you. And I tried to sleep last night on my back, not moving so that I could wake up this morning.
Oh, don't do that. We don't sacrifice sleep for beauty.
Well, it didn't. It turned out. Anyways, it worked out great. But okay, a question that I've been dying to ask now that we talk about these micro habits, and I know you have a lot. You probably have a list of 1,000 of them. But what is one, especially as of late, what's one small, maybe underestimated shift that created massive change for your life?
Yeah, we love micro habits. I'm a big fan of anything that takes very little time and gets a lot of results. But one I really love is micro connections. So there's a ton of research that shows that when you have those little moments, like at the grocery store or when you're walking by somebody on the street and you just smile at each other, that actually increases your innate sense of optimism. It makes you happier. It makes you feel more of a sense of purpose, and it makes you feel more connected to your community. And this is literally just like that quick conversation in the checkout line, these teeny, teeny, tiny moments of connection with other people, of feeling like we're woven into the fabric of a community. And the world's largest study, the longest study of health and human happiness, it's called the Harvard School of Adult Development Study. It's been going on for 80 years. And they found that the single thing that makes us live longer and makes us have happier lives is the quality and strength of our relationships. And so relationships really, like, we talk about what we eat, we talk about meditation and working out and all these supplements and all of these things. But really, when you think about health and when you look into the research and what it says about health, the number one thing is relationships. And there's so many different ways that I encourage my audience to invest in their relationships and prioritize their relationships. But I love micro connections because they're just like a teeny tiny way to be in relationship with people throughout our day and to remind ourselves that we're not alone in the world.
Okay, you got me panicking just for a sec because sometimes, and I get this is all part of me making a room a better place because I was there, because I did something, or just the presence of being there. Now, this is my thought pattern is sometimes if I smile at somebody, I don't want them to think I'm flirting with them because I'm not.
Okay.
So how do you get past that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's like there's a way you can smile, I would say, but like when you're just I think that's on them if they think you're flirty. You know what I mean? I think if you're just doing a friendly smile and they're going to immediately take that as a flirty thing, that's kind of on them.
Okay, well, and then I don't put out that flirt vibe at all, not even a little bit. What is okay? I want to go to this, like the loop thing. We're talking about this loop. So like I think about our listeners. So this big event that I just hosted, 300 people, my first event. And a lot of the women there have been like cracked open, shaken up. A lot of the listeners too. And they're at the edge of something great. Like it could be launching a podcast or writing a book. This, like, there's something that has such meaning to them. But what advice would you give them for those who are stuck in the, what if this doesn't work? How do you take that first step anyway?
I mean, it definitely won't work if you don't do it. I feel like the alternative to something failing is that it definitely fails. The alternative to something potentially failing is something definitely failing. I would definitely prefer potential failure to definitive failure. Also, research shows that if we take risks, even if those risks don't pay off, we always prefer that to not taking a risk. So our brains far prefer trying something out and seeing where that path goes, because in that failure, you're going to learn lessons. You're going to get valuable information for what your next step should be. Everybody I know who's accomplished great things in life, it's been an iterative process. So it's not just out the gate, okay, that worked great, that worked great, that worked great. It's been, okay, this part worked well, but this thing really needs some huge adjustments. So I'm going to be able, now I have the information to take that and adjust that feedback and do this a little bit differently. And then you get a little bit more information, you make a little bit more adjustments. And if you don't take the steps, you're never going to get the information that you need to iterate to get you to the goals that you desire.
Okay. I think from my conversations with these women, a lot of them are so afraid of losing money, like the financial failure, that if they put it all in and it fails, they're going to lose all this money.
So I think that we often think we need to spend a lot of money to try to do whatever our dream thing is. And I would ask you, what is the scrappiest way that you can go after that goal? Do you need to, I don't think you need to like mortgage your house and put it all into your business. For instance, when I started doing the podcast and writing books, I still had a full-time job for years and years and years until I knew that I could make the type of income I needed from my podcast to self-sustain with it. I would certainly recommend that to anybody else, or to have some sort of runway so that you know that you will be okay. Create a safety net for yourself.
And then the other half are their fear of the hard work. When I started this podcast, because I didn't know what I was doing and also did not have the resources back then to have a team to do all the editing, I edited the first 12 episodes from the intro to, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. I finally hired somebody. But there's this fear of hard work. There's this
I
fear
mean,
of it being too much that they can actually handle.
I would say choose your hard, right? Like there's the hard of the actual work and putting in the work, and it's up to you to decide how much work is actually necessary and what you're telling yourself needs to be done versus what actually needs to be done. And I encourage people to be very discerning about that. But there's the hard work of doing the hard work, and then there's the hard work of sitting there every single day with the weight of your unfulfilled dreams on top of your shoulders, and that's also really hard. So you're choosing a hard there as well.
Oh my gosh. I got to pull up a quote that I said on my last episode about this. It's kind of like you cannot have a breakthrough unless you actually take that first step.
Mm.
And let me tell you, like there's different kinds of hard. And I know when I ran a PR agency and we were very successful and highly profitable, I hated it so much. It was a grind and that was hard. And then I started getting into the event space and now having the Pink Skirt Project and doing the work to actually bring that thing to light, which was the more work than I had done probably in the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't feel like work because it was alignment. And that felt good. And that was in this room with all these women asking this question. Like, I want to do this thing, but I'm afraid of the financial failure, the emotional failure. I'm afraid of being like an outcast or people not trusting me again because I didn't do it the way I was supposed to. So they're in this loop.
Yeah. I mean, I think it differs from person to person, but I definitely think everything is hard. And even when we think we're not making choices, when we're inaction is a choice. And I think that we are always choosing something, whether we are aware of it or not. And are those choices going to be choices that you're going to feel good and excited about on your deathbed? That's something I'm constantly doing. It's one of the tips in my book. It's similar to what we talked about with the phone, but zooming out. And at the end of your life, what are the choices that you're going to feel really good about? And I think trying to lean into the choices that are going to make your 90-year-old self as proud as possible and feel as fulfilled as possible that's a guiding light for me.
I love that. And I love that you said 90-year-old self too. So at my event, Dan was on stage and he said, there's only two people in your life that you have to try to impress or not impress. It was along those lines. And he's like, the 80-year-old version of yourself and the 8-year-old version of yourself. And it was just so like full spectrum, like, oh my gosh, if I could turn back to the 8-year-old version of me, what would I say? And then how can I do something today to make that 80-year-old version happy and healthy and live a good life?
Yeah, 100%.
We always think it's like external validation when that's probably has the biggest pull, but we're not ever lining up to actually serve the 90-year-old version of ourselves.
Well, and the external validation doesn't really hit. I think anybody who's I've gotten a lot of external validation in my life, and it lasts briefly and then it dissipates. It's not sticky. And I think that once you get enough of it, you realize that you need to create intrinsic motivation and intrinsic validation to have that sticky effect.
Damn straight. Gotta love yourself first. Honestly, those silent conversations in the car, I have a good time. Like, I enjoy my company and I love
That's amazing. I love it. Your own best friend.
I am my own best friend. Okay. So much we can talk about, but I have one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
It's living a life free from shoulds. I think a lot of people and a lot of women particularly are taught that we need to live consciously and unconsciously by these shoulds that dictate our life. So whether that's you should get married, you should have a kid, you should be this type of mother. This is what a good mother looks like. This is what a good entrepreneur looks like. This is what a good wife looks like. You should buy a house. There's so many shoulds that dictate our lives. And I would ask yourself, like, which of these are coming from outside voices and which of these are coming from my inside voice? And the more, to the point of a lot of the other things we've talked about in this conversation, the more you can get quiet and really listen to what is the inside voice saying and what do I want my life to look like? And it could look so different than anybody else that you know. You could raise a child with your best girlfriend in a little apartment that you live in part of the year in New York and a little apartment you live in part of the year in South America. Like, and they could both be rentals, and you might never buy a home, and that's fine. And you might never have a romantic partner, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's not what you want for your life. And I think questioning in every single moment, is this something that I'm doing because it's what I want? It's what fits my definition of a good life versus this is what society or my parents or my partner or the magazines that I was raised on tell me that these things should be, it's the most important work that we can do as women.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I read 17 magazine and Cosmo, and wow, were they ever conditioning us.
So conditioned. And I come from the editorial world, and I have a lot of love for magazines and journalism and all of that. And yeah, I mean, I was reading about how my value would come through my looks and through my sex skills since I was like 13 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I was like I had a very long, ugly face, and I think it only went away like 5 years ago.
Wow.
But yes.
The version I see is beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yes, I've definitely grown into myself. And I will say this is that the glowingness of somebody comes from that self-acceptance and that confidence. And I see this in I talked about this the other day with some of my girlfriends. I'm like, you're the most beautiful I've ever seen you. And it's not like they're the youngest version or like the skinniest version. They're the most you version. And it's like the best makeup you can put on is just the loving who you are truly, fully, completely.
I agree with that completely. One of my life mottos is your body is for living, not looking. And I think about that constantly. So the more that I can be living, truly living in my body, the more that I can be hiking mountains and hugging friends and feeling the sun on my skin, the more I love my body, because that's what it's here for. It's not here to be decorative and be something that other people enjoy. It's something for me to live my life in.
Like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So random. Okay, so while you're living, people do want to go and look for you. So where can they find you online?
Yeah. So the number one place is my podcast. It's called the Liz Moody Podcast. If you like any of the tips that I shared here, we have those exponentially more on the podcast. We're really taking science and we're trying to make it actionable, doable, and fun to listen to. We really don't want to create like a podcast that puts you to sleep. So we work really hard to make it entertaining as well. And then I'm also at Liz Moody on Instagram, and I'm sharing how I'm using all these tips in my own life to make my life better.
It's amazing. I love your content on social. Go check out the podcast, y'all. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.